Okay. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful, in honor of the original, unconditional being and moment that all realities have manifested from, have simulated from, in the presence of an actually unknown world, I would like to give a lecture. Okay. So the audio should be pretty good. Let me know if there's anything off. And yeah. So to dive into it, I am looking into a very interesting sentence. There is a research component for this lecture, and it's going to make us realize really perhaps blind spots of human evolution in the future. Okay. All right. So there's something for me to read, but this lecture is about how human beings, in some sense, form identity, or in some sense, generate meaning, but that meaning doesn't integrate. And so there's so many human beings being born on the planet. They are, in some sense, having sort of identities, having a sense of identity in the moment. But if that identity doesn't integrate, um, in some sense it's going to lead to conflict. Okay, and there's examples of this all over the planet. I'm sure after I read this you're gonna see what I mean. So anyways, guys, give me a second. I gotta close all these tabs that are devouring my data. Hold on. Okay. So dear viewers, this is the research component. I'm going to read it. It's very important. Throughout the years, in my lectures, the research components have included like quote tunnels, sharing stories, you know, reading different information and statistic. And, in this modern time, because we have AI, to not use it would be foolish. So in some sense, just like how sticks and stones were used to generate fire, the conscious, I guess, limited human intelligence is alongside, a more greater processing power functioning. So, anyways, AI, I asked AI to kind of give an academic view and an advanced view on this. We're going to read it. So, here it goes ChatGPT 5.2. Conceptual definition and core. Sorry, that's not. Is that. Okay, here. Conflict increases when identity outpaces integration. And now we're going to read the academic view. Academic foundations and conceptual explanation. The statement, in quotation, conflict increases when identity outpaces integration, captures a well documented dynamic across sociology, psychology, political theory, and systems science. At its core, it describes a temporal mismatch between the speed at which identities form, differentiate, or intensify, and the slower processes required to integrate those identities into shared social, institutional, or cognitive frameworks. In social psychology, identity refers to an individual's or group's self-concept, the narratives, values, symbols, and boundaries through which a person or collective understands. Oh my God, internet technical difficulties, folks. I gotta listen to this to see how much was recorded actually. Okay. Um so folks, I'm back to it. It wasn't completely on, like it was recorded, but anyways, I got to read a part of it again. So I'll just read okay. So it says, I was reading the research component. Conflict increases when identity outpaces integration. We were looking at that. I was reading the academic foundations and conceptual explanation. Okay. I'm going to read it, I guess, from here again. In social psychology, identity refers to an individual or group self concept, the narratives, values, symbols, and boundaries through which a person or collective understands who they are. Integration, by contrast, refers to the mechanisms that align identities with broader systems, norms, institutions, reciprocal recognition, shared rules, and cooperative structures. When identity develops faster than integration, individuals or groups acquiring strong self definition without sufficient relational embedding. Excuse me, when identity develops faster than integration, individuals or groups acquire strong self definition without sufficient relational embedding. This produces what theorists call identity surplus, an excess of meaning, belonging, or moral certainty that lacks corresponding channels for coordination, negotiation, or mutual constraint. Conflict emerges not because identity itself is pathological, but because unintegrated identity behaves defensively, seeking validation through opposition rather than cooperation. This phenomena appears in classic sociological theory. Emil Durkheim's concept of anomie describes social instability arising when collective norms fail to keep pace with individual differentiation. Similarly, Erik Erikson's work on identity development shows that identity formation without successful social integration produces role confusion, defensiveness, and polarization, patterns that scale from individuals to nations. So, this is one part of the research component. There's more to read, but I'm going to explain this, and that's the part that was cut off, I think. So folks, what this is saying is that first of all, you need a sense of like what is identity, and what is integration. So your identity is your concept of self. This concept of self needs to integrate in society. That means it needs to find its meaning in like a bigger system. This is very key. Do you know what this means? This means that a human being is born on earth. Let's say they develop a self concept, but if they are ignorant, if they are trapped in their inner realms, they're ignorant of the outer realms, they can't integrate their identity. And a lot of people in this modern era, they think they have mental illness issues, but I feel that they have identity integration issues. Okay, and these identity integration issues have to do with the psychological experience of the being, and in some sense, if you cannot integrate your identity, you exist only to yourself, and it leads to conflict. And this is what we find happening on the world, in the world right now. And I will speak about this because I am Iranian Canadian. I was born in Tehran, and currently my nation is going through one of the most messed up psychotic episodes in human history. Okay, that a nation has killed its own people. Now, why does this happen? Do you know the numbers are unbelievable? But I began to comprehend this in a more deeper sense that do not limit the conflict to just a specific situation. Sometimes when you can't solve a micro problem, it's not that you need to find more micro details. It's sometimes about you needing to have a macro context shift. Okay, and so what I'm trying to explain here is that what you see as physical violence, as externalized conflict, it's an internalized conflict, and this internal conflict is arising in such a hilarious way that if I explain it to you, this is what I think is going on. Okay, this is what I consider to be going on actually. So Think of it in this way. You have, um, I'm going to go from a design perspective. Let's look at the design of life on Earth. Okay. What we find is 8 billion, 8.1 billion physical organisms. Okay. Humans, excuse me. Way more physical organisms. But we find 8.1 billion, humans. Okay. And the human, if you're human, you've probably noticed this, you know, that you have something different compared to all the other species on this planet. Okay. And it is an ability to exist to yourself in a subjectively conscious way, in a subjectively navigatable way. Okay. I wish I could draw this. I got to get my whiteboard channel going. You have 8 billion, 8.1 biological human beings. The experience of the human being has not properly been explained to humans. And traditionally, you're under the impression you have a body, there's a mind you don't understand, and there's a soul you can never understand technically. Do you know? And so traditionally there was body, mind, soul, and being raised on this planet, I can tell you, as someone born in 1991, a symmetrical year. I remember nobody explained the mind to me. Do you know, when you would do something wrong, they would say, "Are you out of your mind?" Do you know? But nobody would say, "Yo, man, look at that person. He's in his mind." They would say people have an ego or whatnot. But I'm trying to explain it to you that this is how I feel they should have explained it. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to explain it. As a human being, if I had kids, I would say, all right, humans, in front of your eyes, you access an outer realm, an existential, physical, public server. Behind your eyes, you access a hidden inner life. So in front of your eyes, you are living a public life in front of all these manifest, manifest forms. But behind your eyes, you are living a life that only you and your source know. And so this is the hilarious thing, because human beings think they are identities, but we identify with an identity. That means it nullifies, in truth. So what I'm trying to say is our bodies start in the same world, but our minds start in each person's unique own world. And if you don't step out of your inner realms to truly discover, to truly clarify, sometimes epistemology is like a sword, and ontology is the hammer, and the world is like, a blacksmith. Consciousness is like the blacksmith. And it's as if the ontology constantly corrects the epistemology of it. How you go, it's a different argument between what is actually going on and what is going on for you. And so human beings, they generate these concepts of selves, or one can say that they extract it or it's given to them. Do you know, I didn't choose my name, yo. It was given to me. You know, I didn't choose the letters of the alphabet, they were given. I didn't choose the way everybody acknowledged the universe, it was given. A lot of reality is given. And so you are found in your inner realms, okay? And what the inner realms means, it's a world that your value suffices. In other words, humans, rather than integrating, rather than realizing their choice surpasses their identity, you're not caught, you're not trapped by your identity. Do you know that's so? If you look at this life, you know, there's moments where you find meaning, there's moments you generate meaning. There's and what I consider to be the ultimate generation of meaning is acceptance. It's like something you tried to generate meaning over, then you saw it how it actually was, and you accept. Sometimes you just have to accept people. And you know, this is the big truth they don't tell you. Sometimes you have to accept people are never who you see them as. They are a separate agency. So, this lecture is saying, hey, human beings, you're going to all have conflict on this planet because your identities are rooted to specific realities that you don't share. And so, in order to integrate with the broader system, you know, we must advance human identity. Now, humans have this perception that they think, yo, man, you know, just because I'm this, I can't be that. Just because I'm that, I can't be this. You know, that is not the case. Think of it this way: how many ideas are you aware of that you don't identify? How many things in reality do you see that have nothing to do with you? You don't even care about it because it's not real for you. Do you know? Like, do you know somebody who's, for example, imagine somebody's like a plumber or a programmer, do you know, when they see, when they enter a technological space, their reality activates, you know? Or when they, I mean, the plumber, I mean, if it enters, you know, where there's pipes, I don't know, like plumbing problems, you know. But anyways, I feel that this world is preparing everyone for a performance of their life. But the profound thing is, you realize your whole life is the performance of your life. That means it's funny. Till the end of my life, I will never truly know who I was, what all of this is was, and even if I do know, how can I still be me? This is the incredible journey of humanity. Anyways, back to the research component. So, cross disciplinary parallels. One, psychology. In developmental psychology, adolescents who form rigid identities before developing emotional regulation or social reciprocity often display increased aggression or withdrawal. Oh my God, I think that happened to me. Identity crystallizes before integration into adult social roles, producing internal conflict projected outward. Okay, what does this mean? So it says in psychology, when you're young, you have you form these rigid identities before you've actually comprehended like what you how you actually feel, do you know, or you've had an experience. Like, see, it's all about, let me tell you, all human beings are functioning in an unnatural man-made world that has certain protocols, that has certain algorithms, in my opinion. That means if you play the part, you get access to the realities. If you don't play the part, you don't. You know, and the world is shifting from us having these personalized identities. And you know why everybody goes to work? They don't go to work just because of financial gain. It's a language. It's the language that if you play a role, you gain a certain value. And civilization is a massive role playing project, really. You know, and it says before the child has emotionally developed or the child understands what social reciprocity is. You know, I'll tell you, this could be very dangerous. Imagine you're a child that you enter rooms and you don't say hello or you don't say goodbye. Do you know? That's something that's in social reciprocity, but you should have in some sense learned it when you were young, and if you didn't, it leads to identity conflict. So pretty much think of it this way: humans technically can, you like, there's a view that human beings have. Okay, you can look at this view that human beings have no conflict, and it's their inner realms and outer realms that cannot coordinate or align to greater values that causes those conflicts. So we got to understand that conflict is has an inner explanation and has an outer explanation. Or let's say the outer explanation can be because of the inner explanation, and it's like this. If you don't know who you are, you will lose yourself when things happen around you. I was this kind of being when I was young, and I'm going to tell you guys so you guys don't go through it. Okay, this world is going to make you feel um, you don't know, or you're not going to know how to feel, and then the world is going to give you emotions. People think brainwashing is just conceptual. Have you ever thought about it, that you're feeling emotions that have nothing to do with you, but have to do with the role you're identifying? They don't have to do with your actual identity. They have to do with your sense of identity among the whole system. I feel human beings are suffering not because their personal lives are not okay. Do you know? Like, that means there could be a rich billionaire, and there could be like some poor person in Africa, but eventually they gotta, like, how do I say it, like, they're standing in a world in existence. There's so many various moments. It's only in the essentials that we kind of like are kind of messing up as a species. But I will say it this way, that um be very careful what you identify with, because what you identify with gives you access to that reality. And sometimes your identity might not be integrated, and those I totally sympathize with all those quiet kids in class. I was one of those, you know and it was because my identity hadn't integrated, and I was culturally confused, because I was living between two countries. I had lived between two countries, and I had this I was like this. It was so funny. I would tell people, like, when I'm in Canada, I don't feel 100% Canadian. When I'm in Iran, I don't feel 100% Iranian. It's like there's been a sort of hybridization, you know but ultimately, it doesn't matter what the environment tells me. The environment has its ideas from whoever was in the environment before I was. That means the world doesn't understand me, because the world cannot see my hidden inner life. The world cannot see our inner lives. It sees our outer lives. It can only see our inner life if we choose to care for the outer realms. And let me tell you something: don't become one of those spiritual people that doesn't care for the physical world, that makes physical reality insignificant. Do you know? You might not believe it, but to be this is very advanced. But the experience of it to us and our interpretations as humanity may not be. Anyways, let's keep reading. Sociology, group level. So first I read in is psychology, individual level. This is cross-disciplinary parallels to sociology, ground, group level. Ethnic, religious or ideological movements frequently experience heightened conflict during periods of rapid identity consolidation, especially when political or economic institutions lag behind demographic or cultural change. Identity becomes louder precisely because integration channels are weak or absent. Political theory. This is the third point, state level. Nationalism offers a clear example. When national identity intensifies faster than civic integration, constitutional norms, minority protections, or shared economic participation, conflict escalates. History shows that identity first politics without integrative governance reliably produces instability. That means, guys, nations are not being led by like actual critical thinking, they're being led by the identities in charge. And right now, the state of the world is showing us that when humans are in charge of nations rather than advanced AI that allows, like, people are voting on human identities. Yo, man, which human identity do we want to decide for us? But they don't realize you need to be voting on the policies, because we've reached this era thanks to all the tech bros. They have ushered us into the AI age, and every political thing that's happening on earth, if you go to ChatGPT and ask how can it be avoided, it tells you. That means the identity politics of the most advanced nations, okay, they don't freaking check ChatGPT, yo. And of course, there's variables, and I know there's a darker game behind the scenes of the gentle civility. I understand that there's shadow wars where light feels its peace, it's at peace, But dear humans, dear human species, this is all we got. It's us. This is it. Either humans advance, or we dreamed, or we dream. The identity of the people of Iran is way more modern than the identity of the leadership that governs them. Okay? And this is where the flaw is. Do you understand that it's all about identity, all relationships? Because deep down, you all want to belong. Who are we kidding? It's scary being yourself in a world that's bigger than yourself. But at the same time, the fear doesn't make sense when this is the only game we can play. Anyways, we go to four systems theory, structural level. In complex systems, subsystems I'm reading this, guys. In complex systems, subsystems that differentiate faster than the system's capacity to coordinate them generate friction. Oh my God. So I'm going to read that again. In complex systems, subsystems that differentiate faster than the system's capacity to coordinate them generate friction. This mirrors identity dynamics. This mirrors identity dynamics. Differentiation in brackets identity without synchronization integration leads to systemic stress. So, guys, it's not enough to just be a person to yourself. You got to go integrate your identity in the outer realms. And as someone who spent a lot of time in the inner realms, I'm realizing, yo, man, the outer realms was actually, there's a reason it's more fun. There's a reason why, for example, talking to an actual human being is way more interesting than speaking to just an AI, because there is that unknown potential of not knowing what could happen. That's what makes it exciting. So it says differentiation identity without synchronization integration leads to systemic stress, feedback loops, and eventual breakdown. Across disciplines, the pattern remains consistent. Differentiation without integration produces antagonism. Do you know what? Oh my God, it's so obvious, guys. That means you have 8.1 billion humans with 8.1 billion identities. Now, granted, they live in groups and societies, so their identities are kind of like organized. We're like right now, I have a group identity. If I assume I'm Canadian, if I assume I'm Iranian, that's my group identity. If I consider that I'm a being in a world, that's my structural. That's on a structural level. So you got to realize when it comes to, I guess, identity, folks, and even integration of identity, we look at it from an individual level, that's psychology, group level, sociology, state level, political theory, and structural level, systems theory. Very key, man. This is like, if you understand these four things, like I'm pretty sure your mind's activated. So we go three, mechanism of conflict escalation. The escalation follows a predictable sequence. One, identity intensifies, meaning, belonging, and moral certainty increase. Two, integration lags, institutions, norms, and mutual understanding fail to adapt. Three, boundary hardening, identities define themselves against perceived others. Moralization, disagreement becomes existential rather than negotiable. Five, conflict normalization, hostility is reframed as self-defense or virtue. At this stage, conflict is no longer about resources or policy, it becomes about being. Once conflict reaches this ontological level, compromise feels like annihilation. Oh my God. That means you've lived so differently than other humans that to become like them, it will feel like the annihilation of your identity. But that's not like, there's a bigger thing going on. So, guys, don't be scared about this. You are, it is completely okay to be a human being that has never existed here before, and it's the first time you're experiencing yourself, and it's okay. When I was younger, I would be like, man, what if you say the wrong thing? What if you, in some sense, people don't like you? That shit, that was such nonsense. That was garbage, self brainwashing I had done to myself. you know and there will come a day where you will realize that it's called humanity for a reason. So we go to the most advanced view, a civilizational perspective. From the most advanced perspective, identity and integration are not opposite, but co-evolving processes that must remain synchronized across scales of civilization. Identity represents meaning acceleration, the rapid expansion of how humans define themselves. Integration represents complexity absorption, the system's capacity to hold, harmonize, and translate those meanings into cooperative function. Modern humanity faces unprecedented identity acceleration. Cultural, ideological, technological, and psychological identities now form faster than any previous historical era. Oh my God. Yeah. However, our integrative architectures, governance, ethics, education, and shared narratives remain largely outdated. Thus, contemporary conflict is not primarily a moral failure, but a systems lag. My God. This means there has to be a supernatural event, guys. I cannot see human beings being patient enough to integrate their identities, before there's too much unintegrated identities leading to conflict, unless there's a huge awakening. So I can see the next awakening, at least. Thus, it says contemporary conflict is not primarily a moral failure, but a systems lag. I read this. The deepest insight is this: conflict increases not because identities are too strong, but because integration is too slow. And religions are integrating identities. Guys, if religions didn't exist, okay, you might be shocked how sooner, humanity would destroy itself. Religions were back, oh my God, they were divine intervention. An advanced civilization does not suppress identity. It builds integrative intelligence fast enough to match it. This includes meta-identities, shared humanity, adaptive institutions, and cognitive frameworks that allow difference without fragmentation. In this light, the task of advanced humanity is clear: to evolve integration at the same rate as identity, or accept conflict as a structural consequence of imbalance. So, final summary. Conflict increases when meaning grows faster than our ability to hold it together. And that's what's happening. We are having so many people conceptualize, but not enough people contextualize reality. You're all conceptualizing it, and I can't blame you, because you can never blame the past. The past didn't know better, or it would have happened differently. Blaming the past is like trying to envision a film scene that has already passed, and you're like past that part of the film. To me, it's all about the future and how we enter it. And, you know, what breaks my heart is I believe in a system admin, and the nation I was born in, there are these impure humans uh, um, using God's name to kill God's creation. They think they are religious. They think they are religious, but they don't see God's creation. And so may God protect humans all over the planet. May God guide humans towards greater integration. What integrates us in all this randomity? You have 8.1 billion people being random ideas to themselves, okay, at different moments throughout the day, right? And all of this has to integrate. And it's the integration of society that is very important. Okay, this is why I speak about the advancement of civilization, because the integration means what's that great story pulling all the generations towards their own greatness, towards the greatness of their destinies. And guys, there will be a moment where I will not be here. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know when humans will care about what they're calling human or what is existence at all. I am not convinced. The words do not satisfy me. I have been living on this planet for 12,400 plus days, okay? Do you know? And I am not satisfied. They're like, yeah, man, don't look at it don't care about it too much. Just go and live in your own world, bro. Have fun in this life. Don't wonder about what existence means, what experience means. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. If everybody, is having fun, it's equivalent to a parking lot where everybody's throwing their trash and nobody's picking up. After generations, there will be like souls who will be like, this place is messy. And so that's what we really need. A realization that we have to care for the world more than our own world. And so I have made that decision. I could have lived any other type of life on this planet. I could have been born anywhere. I could have been in any part. I could have had any different kind of face, any different shape, any different DNA, different position, different circumstances, and different views. But I find myself in this position now, and all that is left is I either honor my whole moment, or I stand as a dishonored soul, and I will not have that. In some sense, the honor of my life is serving the most advanced state of being. And that most advanced state of being is the power source to all of us. So I will tell you, there's a long way for humanity left to go. But to truly advance, you must open the door of your own world and realize there has always been infinite ways to look at the moment. That's really what history is. It's different DNA, having different experiences of what it calls the same thing. That means nothing's the same, it appears the same. Human consciousness and human identity is based on based on a fixed illusion in a changing world. And you're all living based on that frame of reference, I guess. To me, the world returned into being unknown again. I became an unknown self again. My name was no longer a shackle on me. In other words, the possibility of life fascinates you in realizing that your past made you think that the future was something you never were. Or let me say that sentence again, or let me say it this way. Choose your allegiance. You either have your allegiance to your past, you either have your allegiance to the present, or you have your allegiance to the future. You either care for human activity in the past, you either care for human activity in the present, or you care about human activity in the future. If you care about the future, it includes all of them. If you care about the present, it only includes the past. If you care about the past, you don't even know where you are and you're lost. So, in other words, it is very obvious that the most advanced state of human function is a realization of those souls that are not responsible for their past or just their present. You're responsible for your future. You must live for the future. Our minds are designed to notice the future. That means your body is designed to live in 2026. You think your mind is designed to live in 2026? You think your mind has always been on time, has been in time? My mind has always been ahead of time. Every time I've checked the time, just like how when there was this quote that said, when you go to the edge, you see things that others can't see. When I look at the edge of time, oh my God, like right now, it's 8:33 p.m. But the moment I say it's 8:33 p.m., the seconds have marched forward already. In other words, the experience of the past is actually an experience in the future of the present. So you cannot know your past unless your present is entering the future. Body, mind, soul, past, present, future, solid, liquid, gas. What are we doing here as humans? Let me tell you. We are realizing through various formations that it's a field. Reality is projected in this field. You think you have ideas. These are what the nodes access. This is what the antenna picks up. The original signals of the realm are unconditional. Or I should say it differently, they're not signals. In other words, position, personality, presence. I am positioned in an existential reality. My body is solid, yo. Existence is solid. Experience is liquid. Awareness to the experience of existence is gas. It's not possible to explain it simpler than that, yo. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful and the most advanced, I am here to tell you that as a human being, this took me a while to realize, and it's the journey of our lives, and it's the great event of our lives that we can self-conceptualize, that we can be beings to ourselves that are different than how we are physically, and as subjective beings with more movement with more, let's say, flexibility. So pretty much you're looking at these physical entities using a fluid method to in some sense realize nothing was ever physical. It is underneath all nature's laws, there's source code. That source code is a command. The command is not something that's physical. It's like an enforced, I shouldn't say it's enforced, it's the position before the position. So I'm telling you, all manifestation has been commanded. Some moments of manifestation, their commands are they take a long expression. That means a fly lives a day, a human being lives 100 years. Different commands. Anyways, thank you for listening, folks, and I hope this lecture was interesting. I want to go into a quote tunnel, actually. Let's see what other human beings have said about conflict. So, guys, this is a quote tunnel. It's been ages. Let's go into it. So, Martin Luther King Jr. Man must evolve for all human conflict. Man must evolve for all human conflict, a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Well said. Thomas Paine, the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Don Miguel Ruiz, people like to say that the conflict is between good and evil. The real conflict is between truth and lies. Yeah, original and simulated. Then we have Ronald Reagan. Peace is not absence of conflict. It is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. Well said. Isaac Asimov also said violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. Okay. Do you know what that means? That means world leaders are being lazy. You are all being lazy. Rather than living for the solution, you live to solve your own personal problem, but it will create bigger problems for you in the future. Nations don't understand. If you destroy other nations and take their resources, do you understand? History is going to remember. Do you understand? We don't live in the savageness of the past, because it's not just the life of human beings on this world. Do you know? There's other beings here. Okay, and these other beings, they go from jinn kind and they go up. So lower, I don't know, there can be an argument that jinn kind are lower or parallel to humans, because in the Holy Quran, they're not parallel to humans, of course. um, they're a different class of being. So in Islamic theology, angels are beings commanded into existence out of light. Humans are made of clay, and devils and demons and jinn kind are made from a smokeless flame. Now, I don't know how Christianity views this. I think it's a bit different, but in Islam, Shaitan was a jinn, but it was a pious jinn that was very near to God, the system admin of the realm. So there's moderators. Shaitan is an anti-human force moderator. There's a bunch of other human, allied moderators, like angels and whatnot. But guys, we either fight or we get smarter. That's it. You either get smarter or you stay an animal. You use force or you use perspective. Winston Churchill: never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. What an interesting sentence. Wayne Dyer: conflict cannot survive without your participation. Nikola Tesla: there's no conflict between the ideal of religion and the ideal of science, but science is opposed to theological dogmas because science is founded on fact. To me, the universe is simply a great machine which never came into being and never will end. Wow, what? What did I just read? The human being is no exception to the natural order. Man, like the universe, is a machine. So Nikola Tesla is saying, to me, the universe is simply a great machine which never came into being and never will end. Yeah, he sees it as a function. Yeah, he sees it as a force then. He sees the great machine as a force, because that's the behavior of a force, which never came into being and will never end. A force cannot be created or destroyed. Anyways, let's go to the next quote. William Ellery Channing: difficulties are meant to rouse, not discourage. The human spirit is to grow strong by conflict. I don't know who these people are. William S. Burroughs: happiness is a byproduct of function, purpose, and conflict. Those who seek happiness for itself seek victory without war. Charlie Chaplin: I am at peace with God. My conflict is with man. Technically means himself as well. Margaret Heffernan. For good ideas and true innovation, you need human interaction, conflict, argument, and debate. Yeah, you got to have movement and sometimes instability in your life so you can access different viewpoints to your own same moment. George Bouquet: when you don't manage your life well, you become angry and frustrated as things don't go as intended, and our bad mood is a sign showing we were not able to resolve the conflict. Anne McLean: with so much conflict in the world, space exploration can be a beacon of hope. Lao Tzu: indwelling like close to the ground. Indwelling, live close to the ground. In thinking, keep to the simple. In conflict, be fair and generous. In governing, don't try to control. In work, do what you enjoy. In family life, be completely present. Guys, where was this quote like 10 years ago? My God, I'm going to post this. This is a rare quote. William James, whenever you're in conflict with someone, there is one factor that can make the difference between damaging your relationship and deepening it. That factor is attitude. George R. Martin, I've always preferred writing about gray characters and human characters, whether they are giants or elves or dwarves or whatever they are, they're still human, and the human heart is still in conflict with the self. Wow. Yeah. Well, guys, George R. Martin has a lot of, you could share a lot of deep things about life. Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson, anytime scientists disagree, it's because we have insufficient data. Then we can agree on what kind of data to get. We get the data and the data solves the problem. Either I'm right or you're right, or we're both wrong, and we move on. That kind of conflict resolution does not exist in politics or religion. Guys, this is the reality of it. Everybody's corner of the universe is more real to them than the actual presence of the whole universe. Our attempts should be as 8.1 billion human beings to, in some sense, each of us use whatever we have. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm trying to see, like, I sincerely, deep down, a part of me is like, yo, man, there's enough unique human beings on this planet that if they work together, they could pretty much solve any problem. That means one person can't solve, let's say, 8.1 billion problems, but 8.1 billion people can solve any problem technically if they work together. We have never had an experience of working together, and we've never had that experience where the whole species is like a team. Marshall, McLuhan, Buckminster Fuller, they said spaceship Earth. We're all crew. We're all the crew of spaceship Earth. We're all the crew on this planet. We're all the stewards and guardians of this realm. But we guard what is real to us. But what is real to us can be different internally and compared to externally. But in actuality, it's all conditions generate the reality, and because you're inside the condition, it's real. But outside the condition, the unconditional is the only being. There's nothing to fear. It's not a physical world. I understand it fine. Thank you. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful, guys, I feel so uplifted. I figured it out. It's an unconditional moment. That's it. It's all play, but a very important play, Wow. I feel like a part of me I feel like I became free right now of something. And now, may my attention go to the God field, where everything is unmistakably being and not being. Have a good day. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful.